approval of the previous meeting's minutes. We have a motion by Supervisor Gerard, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Brian first. I think he comes first on our list today, so. Brian?
Wow, it's good to be first in something. All I'm here for today is, at our last meeting and through the board, we approved a contract to have the BOCES group do some work for us at the training center, clearing an area out so that we can set our 2 container homes. As that contract has gone back and forth to BOCES, they made some minor changes, and Martin suggested that I just come to you and have you approve it again, just to make sure we follow all the nuts and bolts here. So basically, they had changed the name of their group. In other words, what they call the program. They used to call it a forestry program. Now they call it a semi-construction program. But anyhow, they wanted that wording changed in the contract, which has been done by Martin, signed on this end. It's at BOCES now, but he suggested I bring it through committee again.
Okay, do we have a motion? Supervisor Taylor, second. Supervisor Simpson, any discussion on this? Supervisor Seaver?
This is just about the internship?
I'm sorry?
This is the internship with BOCES?
No.
No.
No, this is utilizing their construction program students to do work at the training center. It's not an internship. The group that they have, this vocational group, however you want to call it, they always look each year for projects that their students can do. They just completed one down at the Moreau Rec Field, and they like this one because it's a couple miles from their school.
So it's a service project that we don't pay any money for?
That's exactly right.
That's what I thought.
They insure all their folks, and it's like a field trip to them, but they bring all their own equipment and do that. We meet with them, we give them a scope of work, and we lay out what they can and can't do, along with Ross from the airport, and it's actually pretty helpful to us.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Anything else this morning, Brian?
That's all I have, Supervisor.
Oh, thank you for being efficient.
That's it. I told you it was going to be quick.
All right. Go ahead, Sean.
Morning. The first item on our action agenda is to request a resolution for a new contract with Zybex to install a monitor rack system at the 6 primary positions in the 911 Communications Center. The total cost for this contract will be $20,716.08. That money is covered under one of our grants that we received from the Department of Homeland Security, so it's entirely reimbursed to us.
All right, motion by Supervisor Simpson, seconded by Supervisor Gerard. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that one carries.
Item B on the action agenda is to request a resolution for a new contract with PVC Albany Incorporated, also known as First Light Fiber, for a fiber link between Warren and Washington County for the primary 911 phone network traffic. The history of this is we were contacted, I think late this summer, by Time Warner Cable. The FCC had changed the regulations in regards to the circuits and the networks that 911 traffic travels over. Time Warner made a determination through the legal department that their circuits didn't meet the new standards that the FCC had promulgated. Time Warner told us they're not willing to put the money into their system to rebuild their infrastructure up to where it would meet the standard. We looked at several different options. We're currently paying somewhere in the neighborhood of $891 a month right now to have this link between Warren and Washington County, because we have a shared solution with our communication centers and the PSAP over in Washington County. We went to Verizon. Verizon is the company that installed our 911 system, and they do all the maintenance on it for us. They quote us a price of over $6,900 per month to provide that service to us. Obviously, that's a significant increase from the $890-some that we're paying now. We went to First Light. First Light assured us that they meet the regulations that the FCC has promulgated, and they're going to do it for $800 a month, and it's currently on the state contract. So we're looking to go into a contract with them.
Okay, do we have a motion to get it on the floor? Supervisor Gerard, we have a second? Supervisor Brock, any discussion on this? Supervisor Garrity?
There's no construction or anything, it's just utilizing what's already there?
there is no additional cost to us. There's an installation charge of $990, I believe it is. I can tell you what it is. There's a one-time install charge of $990, and then it's $800 a month for a period of 36 months. There's no other cost.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Item C was to request permission to have Patrol Officer Comer and Patrol Officer Smith attend a New York Highway Safety Fall Symposium in Binghamton, New York. The symposium was October 18th through the 20th. There was no cost to the county. It's covered by a grant that Washington County administers.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Supervisor Gerard, second by Supervisor Seaver. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that one carries.
Topics for discussion, item A, we're gonna fill a custodian vacancy. Due to a retirement, the retirement was back in the middle of September. There's a $6,060 savings by hiring a new custodian.
Okay. And then,
Okay. The next topic for discussion is item B, which is a radio system upgrade. One of the things that we've run into, and I shouldn't say run into, one of the things we've been aware is that we have to acquire additional radio frequencies as part of this radio upgrade project that we have in progress right now. And I'd ask Mark Neal to get up and explain it because it's really his bailiwick, he understands it.
Sure. Can I go from here or?
Yeah, well, over there.
I'm the maintenance coordinator for the sheriff's office, and what I do is take really technical stuff and try to make it palatable for people. And then at the other end, I take, when people have problems with things, they tell me in real general terms, and I make it into technical stuff so I know where to get the parts, where to get the people. As part of the radio upgrade, we do have to get some radio frequencies to replace the ones that we're currently using. We had been told that, or suggested that, by the consultants that we hired, a consulting firm that we hired, and normally in the past you pay an application fee, you send an application to a committee, and then the committee will look at your application and they'll either approve it or disapprove it. If they approve it, it goes to the FCC and we get a license. I received a letter from the committee that says there are no frequencies available in public safety, in the public safety pool. And there are channels, radio channels available in other pools, and what we're going to do is pursue an arrangement with our county radio vendor, where they would obtain the license, because they can get a license in a business pool where we can only go from the public safety pool, which is full. They can get a license in the business pool where most business owners, like tow truck operators, snowplow guys, those types of things, don't use the frequencies that we need anymore. They've kind of moved on, so they're available, just not available to us directly. So what we're going to do is have our radio vendor, Capital Digitronics, get a license for these frequencies, allow us to use them, and then also allow us to file a petition with the FCC to get those licensed. It has to be done through a waiver, and it's more complicated than I'm trying to put across, but at the end, what we want to do is have licenses held by the county for those frequencies, and this seems to be the most feasible way to do it currently. We looked at a lot of different options, and some of them would have been good, but they just didn't work. And some of them were very expensive, and we looked at the numbers involved and whether they were going to be able to justify the cost, and we just didn't see it. The cost to do this, it would be a Basically, what Capital Digitronics wants is they want to cover the costs that they're gonna incur because they have to file a license like we would. They want those costs covered plus plus a rental fee. It would be, for 5 years, and the total cost, for this lease agreement would be about $8,000. We had looked into some other options. One of them was something that Essex County had to do for their radio system. They had to purchase some frequencies, and it was much more. I believe it was $50,000 per radio channel, and we would have needed to purchase 4 of them. So that price was just kind of out of there.
It was Motorola Marshall, was $100.
Correct, yeah, that's what Essex County ended up paying. They bought, I think, at least 2 channels, they paid $100,000 per radio channel. It made their system go, but it was, it was more than we're willing to pay, and it's outside of our budget. The radio budget that was already approved, we're within that. We've been able to realize a few cost savings. We haven't seen any major overruns or anything like that. So this $8,000 is within our budget, but it's just something that, number one, we cannot purchase it on state contract, and also Capital Digitronics is a Harris dealer, and they have had a radio engineer for Harris do all the background work to make sure that if they apply for the licenses that they're very likely to get approved. Like I said, you fill out the application, you give it to a group of people, a group of technical people, and they either approve it or disapprove it. Then because of our proximity to Canada, they send it to a similar group up in Canada, and they have to approve it as well. And if they reject it, then you have to start over again. And we're trying to make sure everything is in place, everything is correct to get this through the first time. It's taken a little bit longer than we thought. It's costing a little bit more than we wanted it to. I had allocated about $4,000 or $5,000 in our original plan for licensing, and we were told that the bus is full. There's no room for licenses from tall mountains like what we have for Gore and Prospect. But on business band, which is similar frequencies just set aside for business users, there are some available. So that's what we're looking for.
Do you need any resolutions or anything today from us?
No, I had discussions with Julie Butler, purchasing agent, and Martin Offerdew, the county attorney, and Martin wanted to make sure the committee was aware of, this is just one of the issues that we're dealing with right now.
Supervisor Brock?
So it's $8,000 a year?
No, it would be for 5 years, period of 5 years, it would be $8,000. What they're doing is they would proceed and get a license, and then they would allow us to operate our equipment on their license, on their frequencies, and they would give us what's called, well, now the term escapes me because I'm in front of a whole bunch of people. Yes, letter of concurrence that we would use along with our application for our own license on these frequencies. Basically saying, we're Capital Digitronics, we have the license for this frequency for this area, and it's okay with us if Warren County licenses it as well. So, like I said, it's not as easy as going to the public safety group and getting a license, but the reality is there are no frequencies available.
But the reason I asked was, why did Essex buy theirs? Why did they pay $100,000?
They saw that as a quicker way. They had gone around. They have the same problems that we do, amplified a little bit more because they're closer to Canada. years ago, a lot of highway departments in the area, a lot of, other entities received letters. They were looking for letters of concurrence so they could kind of piggyback on these, on frequencies. They went through the whole thing. It took them years and many dollars, and they finally said, you know what, we'll purchase some frequencies from Motorola. And it was expensive, but it was the easiest for them way from point A to point B. We had found a vendor that had some licenses, some frequencies available. They weren't as expensive as Motorola's. The problem is the the area that these licenses were. I'll take a piece of paper from you. The area that their licenses were is like this sheet of paper. Warren County was up in this corner of it, so even if we had purchased the frequencies from them, we would have had to get letters of concurrence from the licensed owners here and here and here in order to use them, which might not have happened. So we looked at this as a good option to go around that, and fairly cost effective as well. We anticipate that within 5 years we would be able to go through all of the running around with the FCC and the frequency coordinators and be able to license those for ourselves. And that would be part of our agreement with Capital Digitronics, is that they would give us this letter of concurrence that said that they were okay with doing that. If you go to the frequency coordinators and tell them, we're already on these frequencies, we're using them, we're renting them from a radio vendor, they've told us it's okay to get a license on it, it's much easier for them to give it the stamp of approval than if we just go in cold and say, yeah, we wanna grab a few of these frequencies away from the business band and use them for public safety.
My concern is just where are we gonna be in 5, if everybody's grabbing these up, are we gonna be caught short in 5 years or 10 years, or?
Like I said, in 5 years, we anticipate that we're gonna have a license of our own on the frequencies that we're using. Capital Digitronics said that they would renew the agreement if we didn't, but I would like to avoid that. But that would be the plan B. Plan B, if we weren't able to get them licensed in that period of time, we would continue the lease for either on a yearly basis or go for another 5-year chunk or something like that.
Supervisor Gerard, did you have a question?
Just that $8,000 cost, that's for 5 years, we have to pay that up front?
It would be, yes.
Yeah.
And is that something you have in a budget, or?
Yeah, we do have the money to cover that. What we didn't have is, if we first looked at another vendor, it was $50,000 for each pair of frequencies. We didn't have the money for that. We see this as a cost-effective means to get to where we need to be without exceeding our budget.
Okay, I just want to back up a little bit, just in case we need it. I think we should have a motion to approve filling the custodial position. I don't know that we necessarily need it, but just in case, I think we should probably cover that base. Supervisor Simpson makes the motion, seconded by Supervisor Brock. Any discussion there? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And did you have anything else, Sean?
No, that's it for the sheriff's office.
All right, very good. I just have a couple things I want to apprise the committee of this morning. We did receive a letter from the city of Glens Falls with a proposal for police consolidation. So I know it went to the chairman originally, went over to the sheriff, and it's made its way over now, and I've had a look at it. I think what we should do is probably take the proposal and have our folks look at the proposal and see financially how it works out for the county. But I wanted to apprise the committee that had been received. And in talking with the sheriff's office too, I just wanted to apprise the committee as well that there seems to be a proposal to reduce the public safety budget to fund the SPCA at the moment. I don't know what the status of that. Frank is here. I don't know, Frank, is that still on the table, or?
I don't think it was to fund the SPCA particularly, but there was a question about where we're at with hiring the corrections officers, if they've all been hired, or.
I believe we got a letter from Mr. Dusick, or an email yesterday, and I know the sheriff and Captain Gates were looking at this morning. I was contacted can't remember, it was this week, earlier this week, by Joanne McKinstry, and there's a question about money in our budget to help fund the SPCA.
Right.
So I didn't foresee there was gonna be a savings because the SPCA is out there handling calls, our officers still have to be on the road, and I explained that to her.
Right. Well, that was one thing, but the other wasn't right.
Right. And we should have an answer for you today about that.
All right, that's really all I had, Supervisor Seaver.
Will you be sending out the police consolidation proposal to the
I
community?
anticipated your question, and I took the opportunity to make some copies of the proposal.
Yes.
So I've got them here for anybody that would like them. And other than that, I don't have any more for the committee. If anybody else on the committee has anything? All right, hearing nothing, Chairman Gary?
Did they give an update on the tower?
We had to hire an engineering firm, Chazon is the name of the company, and they were up last week, they flew balloons. It was last week, I believe, and they had to do what's called a view shed analysis, whereby they fly a balloon at 80 feet to get your attention, then they fly a balloon at the actual tower height, which was 60 feet. And those two balloons were flown early in the morning at 7:30, and then they had computer modeling where they thought that the tower might be visible from in the hamlet of Warrensburg area and perhaps some other areas as well. I know the APA was there. They went around to different spots with the engineering firm, and we have not heard back from them. And the only other thing is, we put out a bid for the tower to have somebody put it up. The tower realistically should probably cost no more than $15,000, and the lowest bid was about $46,000. The highest bid was $119,000. The sheriff looked at it with me. We rejected all the bids. Following that, we were contacted by a company we've never heard of. It's called JNS Towers. I believe they're someplace downstate. And what they do is they erect towers at no cost to the municipality. They take care of everything, stem to stern, so to speak, electric, generators, licensing, permitting, everything. And what they do is then they market that tower, which would be owned by the county, and they try and get cell providers up on there, and they share the revenue with the county. What they typically do is if a cell provider paid them $2,000 a month to have their antenna and equipment up on that tower, half of that revenue would go back to the county. We're gonna meet with them probably next week to see what their timetable would be, but if it greatly exceeds what we wanna get done, we're probably not gonna look at that option right now. And what we'll look at having done is have the DPW help erect a radio tower like they did for us up at the DPW in Warrensburg. So,
Now, was that balloon the one that broke away and they had the F-16s going?
no, sir, that was a different balloon.
The point I'm trying to make is, if we weren't in the Adirondack Park, we wouldn't have had to spend $15,000 to float balloons in the air. And I brought it up at our APA local government meeting yesterday. I think it's time that counties and municipalities take a stand against this is an emergency communication tower to protect our employees and to protect the public. And I wanna see this tower go, and I think it's gonna go, because I don't think the balloon float showed a lot, that, it's not intrusive, but one of these days, I'm gonna ask for a resolution from the board that we petition the state to take jurisdiction of these towers out of the APA. This is I think it's gonna be around a $15,000 cost to the county, the taxpayers. Taxpayers are paying for this, which we had to do to satisfy the APA. And when we went up there, we made it very clear to the people at the APA, this is for emergency communications. I just think it's terrible that, we have to beg an agency in Raybrook to be able to put an emergency communications tower up on town-owned property in conjunction with the county and spend $15,000 because we're in the APA. And I think it's important, and I do have support from some of my colleagues and the APA local government, and I believe I get support for some of the other counties that had to do it. It costs Essex County a tremendous amount of money to get towers. It's cost Saratoga County a tremendous amount of money to get towers approved. But I think it's a time now that we the people who live here petition the state government to say enough. You know, we ought to be able to put a tower up for emergency communications without having to jump through hoops, because somebody in Raybrook says these are rules and regulations of the EPA.
Supervisor Brock?
That's my take on it.
Yeah, what would be the alternative if they said no?
Install a tower.
We would install a tower.
I would believe we could install a tower, sure.
No,
And
if
they,
the
and if
ATA
they say
said,
no, if they say no about the tower,
yeah,
they could say no, we won't have it. You won't be able to put it up.
well, that's my point, is if there's no alternative, then why are they making you, I mean,
Because
then,
it's over 40 feet within the Adirondack Park.
well, I'm sort of supporting what you're saying, but.
No, but I say it's
if-
over 40 feet in the park.
But if there's no alternative and public safety is in the mix here, why are we even having to, I mean, you gotta put it up, so.
It's their regulation.
So why, it just seems,
It does, you're right. But I think if we've reached a point in time, especially with this narrow banding, and just like buying these frequencies, this is all part of narrow banding. You know, it's somebody in the federal government decided to do this X number of years ago, and this is putting a burdensome cost on the taxpayers. This, you know, you can't get frequencies, you gotta buy them, because of narrow banding, and it's cost a lot of people a lot of money. It's cost our volunteer fire departments, and it's costing us when we have to do these things. So I just think it's time that we make a stand here. I mean, nothing against it, they've been very good. I think the EPA has been very good to work with, but I'm just telling you, this is $15,000 study to float balloons in the air. I couldn't do it on my town level, it's a lot of money. So that's all I'm bringing up, and I brought up the EPA local government meetings.
Brian, did you have something for us?
Just throw out some information for you, at our consortium meeting on Monday, or Tuesday. 14 counties that are in the park that are doing exactly the same thing. The average right now to get anything through the APA to a point where you can start to construct is $85,000. Essex County in their 10-site system spent over $1 million in lawyers' fees. That's not the engineering, that's just the lawyers to get those sites through the APA. So I attended a meeting 2 weeks ago down in the governor's office, a committee that's made up, dealing with broadband. Broadband, of course, and cellular coverage in the Adirondacks, this is a huge deal. Betty Little heading this up, the Secretary for the Environment. So they had all the cellular vendors, telephone companies. I was there just representing our consortium. And 201, as they went around the room, every single vendor said the problem they have is with the APA. For simple things. They're taking a tower and switching it from 3G to 4G, which is equipment change in the base and a couple antennas. A year to make that happen. You know, those are the things that were very difficult. So it is on the radar. If they want to do broadband and they want to bring it to the Adirondacks, which is this big initiative, as Kevin says, that something's got to change because you just can't make it work. After all that, Betty turned to the gentleman who was representing the governor and said, well, what connection do you have? Do you have any authority with the APA? And he turned to her very quietly and said, yeah, they work for me. So, I thought that was kind of interesting. Hopefully he got the story and got the message, but it's everywhere. It's a difficult thing.
And the other thing is, we've been since, I don't know when we went up there for the application, we've done balloon tests. Now you wait for the balloon test, and then I don't know what other hoops we're gonna have to jump through before you go in front of the commissioners, or maybe it'll be non-jurisdictional and they'll approve it after this test. But the delay, it would've been nice, we wanted to get the tower up this year before winter. I don't know if we will or not, but those are the things that we as a group, we need to start looking into. It doesn't affect, in the city, but it affects everybody above that blue line, and like I said, going up to Ohio yesterday, you hit cell service, you don't hit cell service, so it is what it is, but I just bring that up, and eventually down the road, I'm gonna seek support from our board to say enough on these emergency towers.
Okay, anything else to come up?
Yeah, on the narrow banding of, my understanding of that is it goes back to the federal government, like everybody said, the FCC. But basically, they made billions of dollars off of selling these frequencies to cell phone providers. So I think it's, you know, it's the federal government's responsibility to pony up some money, because this affects all the emergency responders across the country by this narrow banding. I know my father-in-law was a spectrum director for NASA, and he used to have to go to these meetings to defend frequencies that they were using for spacecraft that they had sent out to planets, because they wanted to take that and sell them, and they wouldn't be able to communicate with the spacecraft. So, you know, this goes back to the federal government. This is like an unfunded mandate, you know, they made billions of dollars off of this, and now we're all sitting here taxing our people to try to correct the problem. And the problem started in DC.
Supervisor Seaver?
Well, given Supervisor Thomas's comments, is there a way then to look through our legislative committee to work with our federal representatives to ask them, you know, for assistance or ideas, you know,
Yeah.
before it comes to the full board? Maybe there's something, through legislative that could be done?
I would think that they would, you know, they're responsible for it.
Is that something we can put on?
I think that Fred Monroe would be happy to hear about this at legislative and address it there.
Can we do something
We
here
could
to-
make a motion to refer it to legislative for consideration. If anybody would like to make that motion, Supervisor Seaver. We have a second by Supervisor Brock. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Anything else this morning for public safety? Is that a motion to adjourn? All right. Thank you.
It's ridiculous. I mean, you gotta put up a tower anyway, and people are left short.
Sean, that's what's on the agenda.